Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. It's good to have you with us. I'm Dr. Margot Jacot, your mental health business mentor. And I am so delighted to have our guest today. I have to say, I love a lot of my guests. Juliet Austin is someone I've been following over many, many years. So this is a special treat for me to get to have a conversation today with Juliet. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Juliet Austin is a marketing consultant copywriter with over 25 years of experience in online marketing. She has successfully helped several thousand therapists, holistic practitioners, coaches, and businesses in wellness and natural health grow their online presence. What a great thing. As a former therapist with a deep passion for mind and body health trends, Juliet combines her extensive knowledge of mental health and physical health with her marketing expertise. Her ability to apply proven psychological principles in website copywriting consistently delivers results that clients are thrilled with. Welcome, Juliet Austin. So great to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, I saw recently, it must be something that you had put out that was just letting people know, I always call it get your yap to the top, because there are people who will do similar sorts of things, but you were advertising that you were doing some website copywriting and you're a marketing consultant, which is amazing. So, I think it's great for therapists to know about what you're offering because they probably can use your services, and you've pivoted in your career, which is something else that I think a lot of people in our field are curious about. So you were practicing as a therapist for many years, I'm not sure how many, and have made the leap to becoming a website copywriter and marketing consultant for therapists and wellness professionals. Can you tell us a bit about that trajectory?
Well, I am a little bit different in that although I was doing therapy before doing what I'm doing now. I was doing therapy, but I always did the little bit of teaching and I had done a lot of research projects. So I was kind of like those three things are kind of my background at different times and they overlapped, of course. And so what happened was when I first got online, which was 25 years ago, therapists didn't really have websites. Very few of them had websites back then. And I remember I used to do presentations and do workshops, and people would ask me, do I really need a website? That's how new it was. So I started, did my website. I started to help people started to ask me to help them with their marketing and stuff. So I just slowly started doing it. And then I just switched over completely because I don't know. I had worked in the field of abuse for a long time, and just felt like time to move on and change the stories I was hearing. Something a little different. Now, some people are, lots of therapists like yourself have been doing it for a long time. And I don't know, I guess I like change. And I think that's what led me to just kind of shift into this. And because of my research and writing background, doing the copywriting just kind of fit naturally once I started studying it. So I did a lot of online courses in marketing and copywriting. And so everything that I share with everybody else, did myself first, of course.
Right. Always best for us to be our own guinea pig. Right.
That's
So,
yeah.
but yeah, so I think that's how I originally found you, was that I noticed that you were helping people with their marketing, which I want to dive into a bit because, we can all look at people's websites and see what they're doing, that feels like it's impactful and what isn't. I don't like to say right or wrong because it's impactful for some and could be better than others. But, as you were describing your trajectory, it sounds like this was just kind of a natural next step for you because of your background. And so, because a lot of therapists will become consultants, they'll become
Mhm.
coaches, but I haven't seen anybody else who's doing what you're doing. So it seems like a really great addition. So what exactly is a website copywriter? I mean, it sounds like perhaps it's intuitive, but I know from doing consultation with other business owners, I don't think it is. So what
No,
exactly
it's
is a
not.
website copywriter? It's not. What is a website copywriter?
Okay, well, let me start with defining copywriting, and then I'll talk about what a copywriter is. So, copywriting, WRITING, not copywriting,
Right.
RIGHTING, because a lot of people still think it's about that. So it's not about that. It's actually about writing. So it's been around for a long, long time, probably since the 20s, 1920s, before online marketing or web copywriting ever existed. And it's really about it's a science built on scientific principles. It's that have been studied, well before the internet happened. And then since the internet happened, of course, everything's a lot easier to collect data and research these things now. So it's uses scientific methods, psychological methods to build an emotional connection with your audience so that they get engaged and read your copy and then eventually take some kind of action. So the goal is to get them to take action. So the action for most therapists would be to call and book an appointment or email and book an appointment, or some people have a calendar online and book there, or some people offer free consultation. And if you're selling products of some sort or doing courses, you would, the call to action could be to sign up for that, or it could be to sign up for something free, like a free newsletter or a free offer of some kind. So, whatever that call to action is that you want the most wanted action is what you would put on your website. So, that's kind of in a nutshell what copywriting is. And then, of course, a copywriter is someone who has studied all these things and then writes other people's copy for them, which is what I do. And because there there is no research or on writing for therapists, so what I've done over the years is I've taken all the copywriting science and principles, and then I've fine-tuned them so that they're applicable for therapists.
So different, I don't know if you're looking at keywords. Yeah, what are you looking at when you're looking
Well, for
specifically at
example,
therapists?
just like there's different ethics involved. Like a lot of therapists still are queasy about marketing and don't like to do that. They don't like to promote themselves. And there's still a lot who think marketing in general is unethical. I don't know if you come across that, but I still do, even at this, 25 years into this. So part of it is like writing it in a way that's authentic. I think that's a big part of it, authentic. So it sounds authentic to your clients. It's not overly hyped up, hyperbolic, those kinds of things, just so that it's more authentic and sounds genuine, and speaks to your clients in a really empathic way and helps them understand that you get them and you have empathy for them, and that you can't promise, of course, that you're going to solve their problems, but that they can expect some kind of result in the end. Otherwise, why are they paying you hundreds, 100 to 200 or more dollars an hour? So and a lot of therapists kind of object to that. Well, I can't promise. Well, don't promise. You use words that are tentative, like may and can. So that kind of solves that problem. And of course, you can't promise specific results, and I'm going to talk about this a bit more later, but you need to be specific, because why should anybody pay you unless they have some idea that you're going to be able to help them? And just having a website up there with your bio and all your credentials just isn't enough, especially these days. It's so competitive. I mean, I've watched the internet go from therapists not having websites to where they are today, where it's highly competitive.
So, Juliet, I would imagine in your travels, you see a lot of different websites. And what is it that what mistake do you see that people make so much of the time? What should they not do when they're putting together a website and doing that copywriting? First of all, they should probably get some professional assistance because we're not writers, right? Most of us. But in addition to that, what else do you see that people do, I guess, that they really shouldn't be doing? And what are some people doing right?
Well, I think the first thing is, if you really want your website to work well for you, you need to understand some copywriting principles. So you need to either get educated or you need to hire someone to do it for you. So those are the two options. What you mentioned we're not writers. Well, there are some therapists that are good writers. However, I find sometimes those people are harder to work with because they have to unlearn all their professional style of writing. Because this is not a copywriting is not a it's professional, but it's not like professional writing. It's more conversational and more engaging. And it uses, different. I'll get into this a bit more later, but the language is simple, etc. You're not using jargon words. You're not writing to a professional audience. You're writing to a lay audience. So I would say though that first of all, you either need to know some principles, and I'm going to be going through some of those today here, so that will certainly help you. And I think one of the big mistakes, and this is kind of well talked about, is writing your website and making it all about you as opposed to about the clients that you're trying to attract. So this means you're not, most people put, still to this day, I still see it on their homepage. There's a little bit of a bio about them. And often it's not that it's incorrect or anything, but it's just not very engaging when you just write your credentials, because basically all therapists have similar credentials. So how is that making you stand out? It doesn't help people decide if you're the right therapist for them. So you want to, in order to be engaging and create that conversation and create that emotional connection, you got to make it about them primarily. That doesn't mean you don't talk about yourself. I usually suggest a little tiny bit about yourself on the homepage further down after you've talked to the client about them. And then, of course, you'll have an about page, which is about you. But the rest of it should be primarily about the client or how you help the client and what the outcome is going to be. So that's the number one. Um, the other thing I see a lot is people write a few bullet points on their website and think, "Oh, that's good enough," where it's just not to be competitive anymore. A lot of therapists are still doing that. It's just I go to most therapists' websites and I don't really know much about them, seriously. I don't know, should I hire this person or not? They might list some credentials there. They might list some bullet points and a few other things, but that's what everybody's doing, so it doesn't really stand out, right? It's hard to determine from that. And now a lot of people are looking online, like most people, at least even if they get a word of mouth referral or something like that, they will usually go to the website first before they contact the person because they want to check them out there. And then I guess the last thing would not be not having a clear call to action, which I mentioned earlier, getting them or asking them, I should say, to do what you most want them to do. Now, you might think if you're just a therapist, I don't only mean just a therapist, that you're not offering other services or products. You might think that the most important thing is for them to book a session with you because that's what gives you money. However, I think still so many therapists offer free inquiry call or a free consultation these days. It can be useful unless you're really busy and have too many clients, which you might not want to do that. But if you're trying to get clients, it's probably a good idea to do something like at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and make it very structured and letting people know exactly what that's for. It's not therapy. It's not for them to go on and on about their problems and talking about it. It's really to give you a brief idea of what they want help with, and then for you to discuss how you might help them or how you might work with them. So if you structure that really well ahead of time in your emails, at the beginning of that call, if you're doing a call or online video, conference, whatever it may be, then you don't have to worry about people, for the most part, of going on and on or it turning into a therapy session. I think a lot of people have that fear. But if you structure it well, I think it works a lot better that way. And actually, over the years, with my own business, I used to say I did a free consultation. Now I say free inquiry call because that's actually clearer. I think it sends a clearer message. And then when I have that on my website, and I encourage my clients to do this, or I write it for them, something like what's going to happen when they on that call or that meeting, Zoom meeting, whatever it is. Basically, I'm going to, tell me what you're looking for, and I'll tell you how I work, and we'll discuss how I might work with you and my fees, because a lot of people want to know about fees, right? So something like that, so they know exactly what's going to happen on that meeting, that call, and then you repeat that at the beginning of that call or meeting as well to just remind them.
That's smart. So a call to action, not just bullet
Yeah,
points.
and, I mean, I think those are the main things that people do wrong, talking about themselves too much and not enough about the client, not being engaging, not being compelling, in the copy, and again, that's something you have to learn how to do because it's very unique, and if you haven't studied copywriting, it's hard to do. And the other thing I've noticed over the years is, that from therapists who didn't have websites to what happens now is that therapists get online and they go, "Oh, I'm going to write my website." So they start looking at all these other websites and they copy whatever everybody else is doing. They think that must be right because that's what everybody else is doing. So that's something that I think one should be aware of. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean it's correct. Because most therapists have not studied copywriting. Most therapists are not getting a copywriter to write their copy. I can just tell by looking at them.
Right. Yeah. I love that idea, Juliet, of making sure that we are speaking to the client about the client. That is what's because people want to talk about themselves, right? They want to hear about themselves. They want to see themselves reflected back. That's something I've definitely noticed on bios or websites or whatever. We need to make sure that they are always the hero of the story, the hero in the website, not the therapist. This is how we're going to help you, but the client has to come first. I love that.
Right. Another thing that I should add to that is I liken it to you're writing to the client's presenting problem. And what I mean by that is, your clients, let's say I don't know, a lot of people call themselves trauma therapists these days. Well, a lot of clients that's not their first um, thing in their mind when they go to a website. There's some might know they have trauma and they might want a trauma therapist. So if you're talking to people who have trauma, that's going to probably resonate with them. But even those people who know they've had trauma and identify with that background, they're often looking for, they're concerned they can't sleep at night, they have anxiety, they can't function very well, they're depressed, they can't get out of bed, whatever their issues are. So you need to write to the presenting issues. What happens, this is actually another big mistake that therapists get into. They start trying to do the therapy on the website. And what I mean by that is they're trying to, tell them about all the trauma they have and all this stuff where the client may not identify with that, or a lot of people don't even know they have trauma or have used that language for the experiences they've had in their lives. So, rather than trying to do the therapy there and try to solve all their problems and everything, you really just want to speak to that what their problems are and that you get them, that you understand it, and you can show empathy for their problems, and that you're going to provide some help for them.
Hmm. Right. That makes good sense. Yeah. Observationally, when I look at websites, if if our websites were trying to speak to other clinicians, they would all be great. But that's not who we're writing for. We're not writing in APA style. We're not writing in jargon. We're not, those aren't the words to use. So I love that. That's a great point. So, what exactly does this process look like? If someone contacted you and said, Juliet, my website isn't performing the way I want it to. What do I need to do? What does that website copywriting process look like?
So for me, I write copy for clients. I don't Sometimes if people call me and do a consultation with me or want to do a Zoom meeting with me, I'll advise them and give them feedback on their website. I'll do that. But otherwise, I don't help them with the writing. I used to do that years ago, and I'll tell you why I stopped doing it. Because they don't understand copywriting, so they'd send me some copy, and I'd have to rewrite it. I mean, if I was going to, because it just wasn't written the way I'm talking about here. So it was more work than I wanted to do. So it was just like I might as well just write copy for people. So that's what I do. I will give feedback or tips verbally in a meeting, but otherwise I don't write or edit people's copy. It just doesn't work. So what I do is somebody, usually we do a free inquiry meeting. Usually that takes longer than most therapists, 10 to 15 minutes, because I have to explain the process, and a lot of people don't know what it is or understand it well enough. So I talk about a little bit about what it is, what they're looking for. We talk about what pages they want, how many pages they want on their site. Is it a rewrite? Is it just a few pages they want rewritten? Is it a completely new revamp, or is it a new website? So we decide all that. We decide on the pages. Then I take a deposit, a 50% deposit up front, because I usually have a queue and people have to wait. And then I send people my policies and procedures, which are very specific because, as you know, with writing, it could go on forever and ever. There's really no end to editing. So there's specific policies, and also people procrastinate and don't get back to me, and when I send them drafts. So I'm very specific on that, on those things. So I send them a very detailed questionnaire so that I can get a lot of information about them and the audience that they want to attract. They send that back to me. Then we do a planning meeting on Zoom. I've read all the answers to the questionnaire, and then I'll ask them some more questions just to really dig in, because I can write copy these days with my eyes closed, I always say. Not exactly, because I've just written so many for, different niches all over the place. However, I wanna customize this to my clients and using their language and their audience and the nuances of what they do. And most therapists don't know how to articulate that, so I have to really dig in with the questionnaire and with the meeting to really pull out of them some of these things. So after the meeting, then they're in my queue, and then I write a draft of whatever pages we've agreed upon. I send it to them for feedback, editing. I'm pretty flexible. Some people just send back and say, "Oh, that's great," or "Can you add this, change this?" Some people like to get in there and do a little bit of editing, so it's a little bit more their language in places. And then they send the first drafts back to me. I write the second drafts, which should be like fine tuning at this point, and then I send them that. They have one more opportunity to send me feedback, and then I'll write the final and third drafts. Now, that is not how all copywriters work, but that's how I work, and the way I think I'm unique in how I write for therapists, because I was the only one doing this way back when. There are some other people out there that do this. I don't know all the specific ways people are doing this, obviously, but my unique way of doing this is, and the way I market myself is, I am really customizing this to you. Taking 3 drafts is very time-consuming process for me and for my clients. So that's kind of my unique selling proposition, you might say, and my 25 years of experience of doing this.
Exactly. Right. You've got both the therapist credentials and you've just been doing it a long time, which, that's a great combination. And to your point, even though, yes, there are some folks who are writers who are also therapists, this is very specific. So it can be really helpful to get someone who kind of understands the language to be able to do this. That's great. So you also do marketing for folks who are in the wellness industry as well. What does that look like?
Well, mostly what I do these days is people just book sessions with me as needed, and depending on where they're at, they might want help with a specific marketing strategy. They might want help getting a marketing plan together. I mean, I always suggest people should have a marketing plan. Most therapists don't. I call it fling marketing, when they just think, "Oh, maybe I'll do this," and they fling something out there, and then they don't get the results they thought they were going to get, and so they might fling something else out there. So basically, it could be helping them to get a marketing plan together. It could be with something specific in marketing. Mostly, I focus on online marketing, which is helping them get a content marketing strategy, whether that's blogging, video blogging, maybe it's social media. Although a lot of therapists, social media is very difficult to build clients with unless you're really committed and really get a really interesting and active channel. There are some therapists that are good at that, but they're few and far between, and the amount of work that has to go into it is enormous if you're gonna get clients from social media. Blogging, on the other hand, or creating video blogs, can be really good because what they do, you put them on your site, you're building up content on your website. So that means that all these pages, different pages can appear in Google, because each page on your website or each video that you create will be a separate entry into Google, or Google will index that separately. So it could increase different ways, more ways for you to get found. Now, I have had clients over the years, for example, that blogged, and that's all the marketing they did, and they blogged, often, like a few times a week or at least once a week. And then what happens is those specific articles would be found in search engines, and the potential, and sometimes those are just people looking for information, not looking for a therapist, and they would go read the articles, and either then they decide to work with the person, or maybe over weeks or months they might decide to work with the person. So I've had a few people who built their practice from nothing to full by only using blogging. Again, that's rare because most therapists don't want to write blogs, and don't want to commit to the time to doing that. So blogging is a big part of that. Um, I don't do Google Ads. I refer to people because that's a whole specialization of doing, creating the Google Ads, and you have to keep on top of that. So I don't do that. I mean, I might discuss with my clients whether that's something that they want to do, whether it's going to be useful for them, and then I would, refer them. What I do though sometimes is I'll check, because therapists don't even know once they hire someone what they're getting, and, there's all these reports that are there and they might be sent, they don't know. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll help review them for clients, and make sure that they're getting what they need from this and make suggestions. One thing I do for Google Ads is I'll sometimes write the ads for the therapists, and then they can send them to the Google Ads person, who will then um, do the ads. It's hard. There are a couple people out there that are writing Google Ads for therapists, or doing Google, not necessarily writing, but doing the whole thing, Google Ads for therapists. But as far as I know, they're not copywriters, so they're writing. But they can test and find out what ads are going to work best anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are using AdWords, and the cost for that has gone up exponentially. So I think, we have a pretty robust budget for that, but we're a larger practice. I think of individual practitioners, that's tough. So it sounds like if we were to come up with maybe the top 3 suggestions for folks, it might be, who are in maybe a smaller group practice or individual practitioners. Sounds like blogging is a really good one
Yeah, or
for the
video, or
reasons that you
creating
defined.
videos. Yeah, vlogging. Yes.
Or vlogging.
If you
Okay,
wanna do online
great.
marketing,
Okay.
now that's, some people still wanna do networking in person and stuff, and that's, you can do that. Very few therapists these days wanna do that. Everybody wants to do online, but you can still do referral marketing, what I call referral marketing, where you're building relationships with doctors, other professionals, and have a whole strategy around how you're going to do that. But the key is to have a strategy, not just, call up some doctor one day and say, "Hey," or go drop by the office and say, "Here's my brochures." You need a whole strategy around that. But in terms, so I haven't helped somebody do that in years, but I have helped a lot of people do that. I think it's just people don't want to do that anymore. Public speaking used to be really popular, like whether that's in person, or now, doing free webinars, free podcasts. Those kinds of things can really help if you wanted work online. And as you know, Margot, having a podcast is a lot of work. um, you know,
It
and
is.
if you're
It is
into it and you
indeed.
want to do it, lots of therapists do it, then that's great. And it does take time. Again, you're not going to get results immediately from these things. And I think that's something, one of the mistakes people make when they're marketing, because, I know you sent a question to me about that, is that they think things are going to happen quicker than they do. I think that's one of the big mistakes people make, rather than understanding that you need a plan, you need a strategy, you need to be consistent with it over time. And one of the other mistakes people make, let's say they get full, or their practice is full, and then they stop marketing. then I've had so many people have come to me after 20 years and they hadn't marketed in that long because they got enough word of mouth referrals or they had good Google rankings or whatever the case may be. And they're like, all of a sudden they're panicking. And so they have to, get marketing again. But that does happen. And it has happened to many people when you stop marketing because you have no control then of what's happening. You have some control if you're marketing, at least you're getting your word out there, reminding people. It's not just about getting out there, but it's about reminding people, staying in front of people over time. That's what works best online, which is why blogging and, social media, if you're really good at it and really committed to it, can work. And usually it's the videos that work best, I think, Instagram and TikTok. And most older therapists are not on TikTok, that's for sure. Some of them are, some are, and maybe a little others. 'Cause it seems like the 20-something are on TikTok more or less, and then the millennials are mostly on Instagram, and then the older folks like us are on a more stick to Facebook more. Yeah,
YouTube,
YouTube and YouTube,
Facebook. Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Yeah, it's starting a YouTube
YouTube and
channel. I've
Facebook.
I've worked
Yeah.
with a few people who have just done YouTube videos, like 15-minute videos consistently, did a good job, put them on their site, and that can help you build a business too. And then there's, of course, there's the counseling directories. There's lots of those over the years that have come on. There weren't any, I should say, when I first started, and there's like a number of them. And I think one of the things I'd like to say about that is psychology today, regardless of where you live and what city, what country, for most of the time, if you're looking for a therapist, and these days, searchers are pretty savvy. They might say anxiety therapist or therapist for anxiety. They might just put in psychotherapist for whatever city you live in. But they're getting more savvy, so that I want help with my spouse who's mean to me or whatever. Um, so when that happens, most cities, most places, most terms that you put in for a therapist, Psychology Today is gonna come up in the first of the organic listings. That's below the ads. Sometimes ads are at top and below, and those are the Google AdWords. So once people get on Psychology Today, a potential client, they don't need to go back to Google. So I usually recommend to people that they get on Psychology Today. And in terms of the other ones, they rank differently depending on the city, location, and the search terms. So it's always a good idea to do what's called a blind search. If I just put in therapist Vancouver, where I live right now, because Google knows I'm in Vancouver, it's going to show me, even if I didn't put Vancouver, it's going to show me most therapists that are here in my location. And it's probably gonna show me sites that I've been to before because it thinks that I like those sites. So it's not what's called a blind search. So in order to do that, you have to go to whatever web browser you're using and do what's called just think I'm forgetting right now what's I use Chrome, and it's called a incognito search in Chrome. I'm not sure what it's called in other browsers. So you go to File, New Incognito Window, and then that should block Google from tracking you. So it should give you a more unbiased results when you search. And so if you do that and you see that some of the other ones are coming up in the first or second position, maybe third, whatever. There's many of them. What's it called? Thrive? Is it called Thrive, or what's that other one called? I can't remember right now, but there's several other ones that might come up, and some come up more in some countries than others. Here in British Columbia, the province I live in, counselingbc.com has sometimes it beats Psychology Today because it was actually around before Psychology Today. So most therapists in British Columbia would be wise to be on that one and are on that one. That's why it's good to have a search and just see. Otherwise, people are just spending money blindly. And the other thing I really want to say, no matter what kind of marketing you do, you need to track your results. So if you're spending money on 5 or 6 or even 1 or 2 counseling directories, for example, or Google ads, which are really expensive, as we talked about, if you're spending the money on them and you don't know where your clients are coming from when they call you or email you, how you know if you're spending your money wisely? You don't know. So I always suggest, I think Psychology Today, now maybe they tell you when the client came from them. I'm not sure. So what I suggest is you ask every single person who contacts you, whether they're a client, become a client or not, how did you find me? Most of them will say online. Then you'll need to ask a second question and say, was it Psychology Today? If you know you're listed on there, because if you say that, they'll go, oh, yeah, yeah, that was it. And then you have a spreadsheet, you start tracking where they're coming from so that at the end of the year, you can look and say, well, I spent this much on Psychology Today ads this year. How many clients did I get? And remember, some people say, well, I only got one client. And I say, well, how many sessions did you do with that client? Oh, well, I did 6 months of weekly sessions. Well, how much money did that come to? I'm just going to say $10,000. I don't know what it was. And then you look, well, how much did you spend $10,000 on Psychology Today this year? Oh gosh, no, I only spent whatever, 200. Well, then it was worth it for you to be there. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to see the total value of the client that you got from there. So it requires some work. These things require work. They require a little bit of, setting up some kind of spreadsheet or, tracking, maybe doing a little bit of math here and there, but, it's important.
Oh, yeah, those are great strategies. So, folks, just to summarize, and I think these are really good tips, you need to plan, you need a marketing strategy, be consistent, don't stop marketing, and track your results. Do those things, and boy, you are probably going to see much more return. And Juliet, you're also talking about blogging, vlogging, videos. I would toss out making sure they have their Google Maps up and running. And, these are all ways that people find us and that Google likes us even more. These are all great tips. So, what else should we know that I didn't ask?
Well, there's a lot, but let me tell you some of the basic ones here. So, um, I did mention earlier being specific. So, um, let me give you an example. So, because specifics are what people resonate with. And imagine if you're having that, like when you're writing your copy, I liken that to the first conversation you would have with a potential client or a client, right? So they're going to talk in specifics. They're going to say, I can't sleep at night. Like if they have anxiety or something, or, I can't sleep. I'm worrying all the time. I'm a worry ward. I worry when I wake up, or I worry that I'm going to fail my exam, and whatever the specifics are. Now, you don't know that every client's going to have the same specific concerns, but there are common ones that most people have if they're struggling with anxiety. And I'm just using anxiety as an example here. So you don't want to just say that you worry all the time, because correct, but they worry about specific things. They maybe they worry when they get in the first thing in the morning. Maybe they worry that their spouse is they're worried about their relationship. To just be as specific as you can be, because that's what's going to resonate most with people. So that's something that's really important. um and I didn't talk about this yet, but specifying the problems that they come to you with, like I just mentioned. But then you also have to specify the potential benefits, and this is where we get into, you're not promising, but you're writing some potential benefits, and those need to be specific as well. Like you will sleep better, or you can learn to sleep better, or you can come to sleep better. Just so you're writing it a little bit more tentatively. You will wake up in the morning feeling more excited about your day. I'm just making this up here. You will feel more relaxed during the day. You will be able to focus on your daily activities and not be distracted by negative thoughts. So be as specific as you can be while still being general enough to apply to most people. You won't be um, uh, it won't apply to everyone, but to most people. And that's the best you can do, right? Because not everybody's going to be your client.
Yep.
Not everybody is the best client for you. And that's also something to remember. When you're writing specifically, you're going to resonate with some clients more than others. So you're going to be attracting the ones that are best suited for you, to you. Um, Using a headline on all your pages at the top. There's research that says that 80% of the people read the headline, and only 20% read the body copy. So imagine if they're searching for you online and they get to Psychology Today and they're just clicking around. They're not reading every single word on the page. If you don't have a headline that tells you either their problems that they're facing or the outcome that they want, something like, people tend to use questions. Inexperienced therapists tend to use too many questions at the beginning of it. It's not that it can't work, but they're just overused. It's better to say something like, um, I don't know, your anxiety. I have 100 headlines I've written. I can't come up with them right now. Um, you can overcome. I'm writing
It's
copy right
always the
now on
way.
eating disorders. So, you can overcome your obsession with food. I'm just making that up right now. So, do you see the benefit is there? So, you're building hope in the
Mhm.
headline. So, you want them to go there. They should know immediately what your site is about. And then there should be some specific
Great.
benefits mentioned as well. Again, eating disorders. You can eat more healthy. You can feel good about your body, no matter how it looks. Those kinds of benefits. Um, that would be for eating disorders.
Mm. Lots of good tips. So be specific. Make sure you highlight potential benefits, and make sure that those are listed. Make sure you have a headline, folks. So, because to your point, Juliet, I think we can get caught up in the is all my punctuation right? Uh, People aren't even likely to read all that as much as they're going to read your headline.
Right,
So
and
that's such a
sometimes people's
great
headline is, "Hi,
tip.
I'm Kate Smith," which is not a headline.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I don't care who
Let
you
me
are. What
just
do
say
you
2
do?
more that are
Yeah,
important here. With
please.
the
Yeah,
headlines, you
please
also need
do.
subheadlines. Like, I tend to write the longer longer copy tends to work better if it's compelling, if it's written tightly, if it's relevant. So longer copy for the sake of longer copy doesn't work. But longer copy that's written with headlines and subheadlines, because people don't read in a linear fashion. Some will. I shouldn't say nobody does. Some will go to your website and read linearly all the way down the page and maybe read the next. But most people jump around. And so it's those subheadings every time you do a transition on the page. Those are the ones that people should read and get the gist of what your website is about on or what every page is about. So subheadings are just as important. And then the other thing to do, and this is where good writers sometimes don't do very well, is because it's conversational writing, you should be using short sentences and short paragraphs because it's
Mm,
easier to comprehend and it's more conversational. It's more how we tend to speak, and it's easier to engage with people and get and draw them into the copy. And so sometimes, instead of using and, look where all your ands are or as well as, and see when you can cut them down and make them short. Paragraphs, I usually say no more than 3 to 4 lines per paragraph. That's not sentences, that's lines, because it's just hard to read. If you have a big block of text, that's very intimidating. Who wants if you're skipping around and you're not sure if this person, then you don't wanna read it. However, if you caught their attention in the headline, maybe some of the subheadings, and they might read below 1 or 2 subheadings, they might eventually your best clients might read every single word on your page, and very often my clients will tell
mm,
me that that's what their best clients tell them. But they're not gonna read it in a
mm.
linear fashion. So a lot of people say, "Well, I want a short page, it's just
Right.
short and to the sweet." Well, that's what everybody does, and it doesn't make you stand out, and it doesn't create that emotional connection. So if it's longer to kinda tell that story and tell how you can help, that doesn't happen in a few bullet points. So that can actually create that
Mhm.
engagement, make you stand out, amongst, the other therapists in your community.
Right, get your yap to the top so that people know that you're out there. Yeah, I love that. So make sure you have subheadings and really 3 to 4 lines per paragraph. Again, not sentences, but lines. Excellent. Any final thoughts, Juliet? This has been fabulous. I've taken some copious notes as we've been sitting here. I'm gonna go back after we're
I
done and
think
take a
that's enough,
look at my own
because it's
website. I'll probably be
yeah, it's a
calling you.
lot that I've given there, like to try and incorporate all that is gonna be challenging to do. So I think that's enough for people to get started with for sure.
Excellent. Absolutely. Well, very, very good tips. And folks, Juliet is, again, has 25 years of experience doing this. Juliet, how can people get a hold of you if they would like to learn more or if they would like to
So
work
there's
with
two
you?
ways. I have sort of two businesses. I think you connected with me through the Mind Body Training Institute, right? So I have my own copywriting website, which is julietaustin.com. Do you gonna write that down or do you want me to spell that or
Yep. Nope.
okay.
We'll
So
make sure it's in the show
for
notes.
my
Thank you for offering.
services, but I also have a copywriting online course, and that's at mindbodytraininginstitute.com//copywriting dash 2. So that course is available for sale on the Mind Body Training Institute website. So those are the two ways you can
Excellent.
get in touch with me.
Wonderful, wonderful. What a great, you packed a lot of really great value in a relatively short period of time. That's wonderful. Thank you so, so much, Juliet Austin. Please do connect with her, folks. Copywriting is really important. We're noticing that the pandemic, thank goodness, is over, but along with the pandemic being over, we're noticing the world is going back to what we knew it to be, which means you have to put effort into these things. People aren't just falling out of the trees onto our couches. Now is the time to do a quick look at your website, or not so quick. Make sure it's reading. Have other people maybe take a look and see if it's reading in a way that they would be drawn in. Have your friends, family, or people you don't know as well take a look at it and give Juliet a quick email or call. So, Juliet Austin, thank you so much for being here today. Thank all of you for joining us. We will see you again next time. Be
Thank you so
well.
much, Margot.